everyone and welcome. You're here today with Andy Valkyrie Divine and we're continuing our series. So today is day 2 of the Solar Plexus Chakra, and today we're going to be addressing the imbalances that can happen when this particular energetic center is out of balance. So I'm going to begin by just giving you a brief reminder of what we were talking about yesterday. So some of the properties of the chakra. So we were talking about the solar plexus, right? And there's two words there: solar, which comes from energy, from the will, that radiance and vibration of power. And the plexus, which is really that center where it is located. And we're talking about metabolism, we're talking about humor. Remember I was saying about laughter. What else are we talking about here? Issues of control, of or of powerlessness. We're going to be discussing that today a little bit in terms of what happens when this chakra is not very well balanced. So we'll start with that. I'll start by discussing the physical aspects of it, because there are a lot more involved in this chakra, because we're starting to move up into the main area of our organs. So we did discuss in the sacral chakra our genitals and lower back and things like that. Now moving upwards, we have that whole area of the stomach, so to speak, and so that's what I'll be starting with. And so one of the things that this chakra is supposed to do physically is to transform everything that we ingest, so food, water, everything that comes through. It's supposed to be transformed into energy. And so what happens is, malfunctions when it comes to a physical manifestation of this would be that things are not getting metabolized properly. So what can happen is you might have digestion problems, a very slow metabolism, stomach sensitivities. That's kind of how it can manifest physically. And if it's on the other side of the spectrum, what can happen is you might get diabetes or ulcers, which are like an overcompensation physically for this particular chakra being excessive. So those are two things to keep in mind. And remember, physical aspects of manifestation in a chakra are there to show you that the energetic imbalance in the chakra has become so big that it wants your attention. And so it's no longer there just on an energetic level, but the energy itself is becoming denser and denser. And the denser energy gets, the more material it gets, so it becomes physical. And so what ends up happening is we see the manifestation of that energy becoming of a denser nature and then actually manifesting itself in a physical form. Another thing that can happen is obesity, right? So if your metabolism is not functioning properly, one aspect of it could be that the food is not being metabolized well enough, and your body's not processing what's coming through, so it gets stored a lot as fat. Now I realized that when we were talking about the root chakra, I was saying how that too, sometimes when you're what you're trying to do is sometimes you end up putting on weight to try to ground yourself, right? So we see that sometimes a lot of the experiences that we deal with, they're not, a lot of people think that, it's just for this chakra and there's nothing else, and it's really not. Everything is so delicately and intricately interwoven, right? And yes, for example, the sacral chakra is the seat of feelings, of emotions, but we experience emotion at the level of the root, to experience emotion at the level of the heart, to experience, so they're very, very closely sort of intertwined, and they work together. And so sometimes I might mention an aspect of something, but just keep in mind that, it can sort of overbrim into some of the other chakras, because they all just, work together, right? They're not like independent entities of their own. So obesity is one of those things. You know, it's a complicated issue, and it can come from various factors. You know, it could be an imbalance that manifests itself in both the, you know, the root and the solar plexus, right? And more. There might be other things. So again, it's just something to keep in mind. I like to make things complicated, but what else? Now, sometimes with obesity too, it's that idea of, you know, that we're lacking that power. You feel powerless, right? How many people try to lose weight and they can't? You know, and that's something that, again, it's that feeling of like, oh, like I don't have that kind of strength, you know, I don't have that kind of power. And then you just kind of give up, and then, you know, people that are emotional eaters, so here you can see a play between, you know, the sacral chakra and the solar plexus. What ends up happening is that, you know, they go from the solar plexus and that feeling of powerlessness, that they cannot do something to change their life, you know, back into a lower energetic level, which is, you know, I'm emotionally eating, right? So again, these are just defense mechanisms that we put up in order to to cope with what's happening. Now, if we're talking about the solar plexus in general, we're talking about energy, right? We're talking about there might be too much energy or too little energy. So from this standpoint, since you know, the solar plexus is all about power, all about energy, all about you know, fire that we're referring to, some of the manifestations of this chakra when it's deficient are actually things like, you know, you can go ahead into consuming substances that are supposed to give you energy. So if you're lacking the energy when your chakra is deficient, what you will end up doing is, you know, have a way to compensate for that by, I don't know, you know, drinking coffee, caffeine, stimulants, drugs, cocaine. I don't know if there's anything else that I missed here. Let me see. So any kind of addiction to substances that are, you know, sugar, again, so sugar goes hand in hand with, you know, some of the other manifestations there. So these are ways that we try to overcompensate for the fact that our chakra is deficient, right? It doesn't have enough energy, and we try to give it substances, and I want to make you realize how cool it is that we're talking about ingesting. So remember, I was talking about food and water, right? About the main necessities that we need for our metabolism, our stomach, to process these. So it's normal that when we're talking about, you know, whether it's deficient or excessive in these manifestations, that we continue to talk about ingestion. And we're talking about ingestion in terms of substances that are, you know, addictive, or substances that give us energy in order to balance the chakra out. Another thing that might show that the chakra is deficient is chronic fatigue. So if you're always tired, if you're always sluggish and lethargic, and you have literally no willpower at the beginning of the day to even get out of your bed, you know, that's another way that it'll show up in your life as it not being fully balanced, you know, and that means that the energy levels there are lacking, they're deficient, and so it manifests itself as this kind of perpetual fatigue and, you know, lethargy and sluggishness, no real willpower to do anything. You're just kind of going through life without having that fire, without having that passion, without having that, you know, blaze to keep you going, right? One other thing would be to experience a weak immune system. So here we're talking about, again, if your body is not able to metabolize things properly, then it doesn't have the energy it needs to fight disease, and so what ends up happening is you know, your immune system tends to be shot, and that's another way that this may manifest as a deficiency. And also, if we're thinking about the solar plexus as our power center, having a deficient power center, you know, actually means that you're you're experiencing a fear of actually taking power, of claiming that right, to power, to act, even just to stand out or take responsibility for different things. So, that's something that might show up in terms of, you're not even willing to take a stance, to stand up for what you believe in, right? And those are all things that come from the solar plexus. And it might also manifest as, again, where we were talking about obedience. We talked yesterday about that, and we said that, this is also a center of, dealing with authority. And so sometimes we might feel deficiencies in that we don't stand up to authority. We just, gently obey, and we just accept things to happen to us as they will. And again, we're just kind of being the victim. We're not being the co-creator. I say this from the point of view of when you think that you're a victim, you don't really have a lot of self-worth, right? So lacking that self-worth, that self-confidence that you can do things is another manifestation of this chakra being deficient. So what happens is, you're losing that confidence that you have the power that you need to take action and do what you need to do in order for your life to change and for you to fulfill the dreams and desires that you have. So you don't have that confidence to radiate because it's not there. It's deficient. It's not, it's coming from a place of powerlessness, and in that state of powerlessness, you don't have that ability to recognize your worth and to recognize the power that you do have. It's just a matter of bringing it out. So I think that's it for the deficient side. If we're looking at the excessive, what ends up happening is you're going to do the complete opposite. So instead of ingesting substances that are supposed to give you energy, so you can make up for the fact that you don't have enough energy, what you do is you try to consume substances that will tone down the extra energy that you have. So, your center has too much energy, it's too overactive, it's on the other extreme. And so what happens is you want things that sedate you. So things like alcohol, addictions to alcohol, opiates, weed, those kinds of things. They're all relaxants that are meant to soothe the excessiveness of the center. In terms of personality, we can think of if a person is too overbearing or too overpowering, too aggressive. These are all manifestations of, that person is too much in their center of power. So it becomes a little bit, that person's all about control, all about manipulation. And remember that the name, right, we're talking about Manipura and Manipu should also give you a hint of manipulation, of control, of, that aspect of it. And people that want to control things and they're very manipulative and they need to hang on to things and it's because they're avoiding, it's an avoidance mechanism to the fact that they don't want to be powerless, and they'll do anything it takes to not have to be in that powerlessness state. And so they overcompensate for that by being too overwhelming and too overpowering. And they're kind of trying to dominate others in that sense so that they can reclaim their power and make sure that they're always at their superior power level so that they don't ever end up in that powerlessness struggle at the bottom. Now, the feeling that we're working with in this center is one of shame. So remember, in the root we were talking about fear. In the sacral chakra we were talking about guilt, and then in the third chakra we're talking about shame. And it's shame. Also, it can be a disappointment with one's one's own self. So feelings of disappointment, of again lack of self-worth, but shame as well. And it's that idea that you don't have the self-worth, the self-value. You don't value yourself. You don't see the power that you have, and you feel like you have no power. And in that, inherently there is a hidden sense of shame that comes with that. So you know, we feel that we have an inability to reclaim our right to act and to be in power, because when you're taking action, you need to be in that seat of power to know that you have the ability to do so. So I think that's it for me. I'm just going to read two things that I thought were very, very interesting from the book. And the book talks about this phenomenon called the disabled will. And it says here, so the disabled will is just that idea that you're not sitting in the seat of your own power. You don't have any willpower. You're just kind of there, and you're not experiencing that that call to action. So it says, the disabled will is vulnerable to domination, for when we fail to realize our own will, others can use it instead. The disabled will is vulnerable to addiction, to control by another, and to enslavement in general. When this happens, a feeling of powerlessness ensues, and the overall energy and vitality diminish, thus closing down the third chakra. A disabled will has no desire in it, and therefore no fire or enthusiasm. Alright. And the second thing I wanted to read is again about this idea of you know, the disabled will is more on the deficient side, and then this other part I'm going to read about is more on the excessive side. And so it says here, an excessive third chakra can appear in what is called the bully belly, an exaggerated puffiness around the middle that is not matched by relative amounts of weight in other areas. So it's only concentrated around the middle, around our stomachs. Those who have a strong need to be in control, to have power over others, to dominate, or to appear superior are overcompensating for a damaged sense of their own true power. Whew, this is an intense one, guys. So that's it for the deficiencies and the excessiveness, all the imbalancing in the solar plexus. Again, you know, each chakra is very rich in different aspects, you know, and I love going through it because I'm just thrilled by reading all of this, and you know, as I think of things and as I say things and read things, I'm just connecting so many dots together, and it's a great experience for me. So I'm really, really enjoying it. Again, I'm very thankful that you're tuning in and that you're following through with the commitment at your own pace, of course, at your own pace. And tomorrow I'll be discussing what can you do to bring balance into this chakra. Okay, so enjoy yourselves, and happy Valentine's Day, guys. Mwah.